Hello and welcome to Voices Amped. I'm Vanessa Becker Weig, and we are here today to talk with Lydia Guillot and Margaret McGladrey, two participants in Bodies Amped, a Moving Anthology. Ellie, can you remind our listeners, what is Bodies Amped?
I would love to. Bodies Amped, a Moving Anthology, is an intergenerational response to the media's representation of the feminine body. So we've had weekly workshops exploring commercial and psychological forces influencing body image. And we've been exploring that through writing, movement, holding space for the participants' stories. We've used Laban, viewpoints, Suzuki, traditional dance styles, and made it accessible for all the participants. We have participants spanning 40 years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, all with different abilities. It's pretty amazing.
It is joyful and wonderful having a community with these participants. We can't wait for you to hear more about them.
Listen as Lydia and Margaret talk about their experience so far with Bodies Amped, which is coming in May.
Hello, we are here this evening to talk with some of our Bodies Amped participants. I am Vanessa Becker Weig.
I'm Ellie Clark.
And we are super excited to have in the Zoom room today, Lydia, can you help me pronounce your last name?
Sure, it's Guillot.
Guillot. Guillot. I love that. And that's, because you're from New Orleans, right? We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
I would pronounce it the Kentucky way, like Guillot or something
Guillot,
awful.
Right. like Versailles. There's Versailles.
Yes.
Wait, Margaret, you're on mute. Margaret's having a very strong point of view on mute. I love it.
Yes, I'm having a very strong point of view about Versailles and how living in Kentucky for 10 years and working with Woodford Theater in Versailles has shaped my ability to pronounce Versailles in France appropriately. It's gone. It's gone.
And Evan's still baffled by Louisville. He's like, Louisville? I'm like, yeah, that's what you say.
There are 5 vowels. Just say all 5 vowels. Louisville.
There is also a Versailles in Ohio. And I mean, even in Ohio, I used to get so frustrated because, people would call it, and I'd be like, Versailles. They're like, no, it's Versailles. And then I get to Kentucky and it went from Versailles to Versailles and still not Versailles.
So everybody knows Margaret. We've interviewed Margaret McGladrey, our research and advocacy director, of course. Ladies, you are here tonight because you're part of Bodies Amped with us. We are moving really closer and closer to the final performance of Bodies Amped, which now is going to be documentary style. We won't be performing live. So tell us, Margaret, you're a little bit of a shoe-in for the project. You're just part of the team, so you're here with us. But Lydia, Margaret, tell us how you came to join Bodies Amped and why you wanted to join and be a part of Bodies Amped. You want to start, Lydia?
Sure.
Okay.
I actually was invited by Wendy Jett, and she's an instructor of mine at the Senior Center. She's also a really good friend of mine. And she said, I think this is something you might like to do. And I love to experiment and try to just try new groups and new things, and had never been in a group like this before. And I've got to say that there were times when I'm just overwhelmed because there's so much creativity going on. It's like, I haven't been creative in so long, but it's been great fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Margaret, with how busy you are and moving from Kentucky to Florida and a ton on your plate right now, what made you want to be involved and stay with it even when it was hard with all that you have going on?
I love to move, right? I love to move with you all, right, and be inspired by exactly that same creative force that Lydia was talking about, and to be able to engage your body in collective, collaborative art making is something that we've all really missed in the pandemic. The two things that I feel deprived of, that I feel very privileged in my deprivation, is like choral music and corporate dance. It's not safe to do either of those things right now, or it's been unsafe, and it's a constant negotiation of what that looks like and how we can do that virtually or not. I just want and need to be a part of what Ellie and Vanessa are doing to create that space for movers, you know, and that creative space, like Lydia was saying. We have to find that light somewhere and make it to, like, I'm getting like the kindling image. We've got to make that together, right? So I think that's what this has all been, is very experimental attempts to keep the fire alive.
Vanessa, what, as all the stuff you have going on too, what feels good, or what brings you into the room and fuels you to just keep working so hard for this group? You've been working, bringing the people together, getting the folks involved, administrating everything, right, in communication with so many people. What's been your inspiration?
The community of women that it has evolved into. You know, we've had some folks that have been a part or dabbled, but now we've kind of gotten to this core. And to begin with, it was very much about the subject matter, which is, you know, moving our bodies, no matter what the age, no matter what the size, what background, anything that we are, and moving together and creating together. There's, to me, there's really nothing more exciting than that. But what keeps me going back, you know, on a Wednesday after I've been directing high schoolers and, you know, that, what keeps me coming back is the community of women that we have developed. And I didn't realize until getting towards the end here how important that community of women was going to become. And even though my brain at times isn't quite there and I'm not feeling creatively inspired, as soon as I get in there with everybody, that all comes in to play.
It's magic. It's magic.
It is magic.
It is. It really is. And I think last night was a prime example for me. We all came into the room. Laura came in with a half broken back from falling out of a rolling chair from trying to have a backdrop. Margaret had a ton of shit going on at work. She's like, I'll probably be off camera. I didn't learn the burlesque dance. Somebody was coming off of an illness and taking new medication. I had been dancing and I got really dizzy doing the burlesque work all by myself, trying to relearn the choreography and teach it last night. And everybody showing up had something outside of the room going on. And once we started dancing and just committed to being there, the space changed, and we all had to commit to the room to change the space. But just reflecting back on the choreography we did to get it out to everybody in an email, I was like, wow, with so much going on, everybody ended up with the camera on and dancing their heart outs. And I think we all felt better after dancing for an hour.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah,
Of course. Yeah.
And it just changes my mindset, even when I'm like, if I could, maybe I should just call out tonight, or maybe, you know, I don't know what to do tonight or what tonight's going to entail. Sometimes when we don't know what's going to happen, it just, the commitment to show up and be there together has meant a lot to me.
Oh,
no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you both feel like, what are some of the takeaways that you get from the community, but also just from the work that we're doing together is when we're finished with this project, do you feel like it's going to inspire you further to do anything out of your norm?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always been keen on adventure, and I just absolutely love the expression and learning about ourselves, and which is what this group is all about too. We're learning about our legacy. Where did we come from? And not just the legacy, but what we can make of it, but how we can create our own legacy. And I love it.
Yeah.
I think in terms of my takeaways from this, I'll tell a brief story. When I was trying to record my voiceover for the poem I was doing on the second time through, I left my little script that I'd used on the desk that I'm sitting at here, which my spouse also uses in our little library, right? And so he encountered this poem I had written and had not read it before and was just like, I didn't know you wrote poetry. And it's like, I guess I didn't really know that I needed to write poetry. And that's the gift of this space, is creating fertile opportunities for not only creation, but reception. That's something I've really valued from last night, is to just be able to be an audience and a listener and create the next thing through what you can respond to from the offering, and it's just been so reciprocal. And so so I think I take away from it this kind of sense of needing to seed my own creativity and lean into that because when even in my own practice, I can create these different kinds of experimental approaches. I can be experimental, right? I feel brave, I guess is what I'm saying. To be a poet, to be you don't need to be a professional, right? Like, I think that's kind of some of what we're coming through this pandemic, is you don't have to be a professional to do what you love. You don't have to be the best, painter to paint. Like, just do whatever your bliss calls you to at that moment. And I think that's
be a burlesque dancer.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. And just
I think we all have a new calling.
Exactly. And I feel that kind of freedom from this project that it's a different level of the empowerment that we've cultivated. And it's because of, and I want to say too, it's because of this intergenerational connection. And that's another big takeaway for me, is just the depth of relationship that's possible with everything that was brought into the room through all these women, the ancestors, past lives, the connections to their own networks and families, their maturity, their creativity. There's just so much in that room, as you were saying, Ellie. So I'm just overwhelmed by what I take away from this.
Yeah. So we have women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, all dancing Giselle's ballet, burlesque, belly dance. I mean, we're just loving every minute.
And fussy.
Dancing to Bad Romance. I haven't seen that video yet that we recorded. I can't wait.
That was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
My goodness. It's like, I'm dancing Fosse. I can't believe it.
I know. It's so good.
I was just going to ask if you all have a favorite thing that we've done so far, whether it be, one of the dance styles that we've done, or a writing prompt, or any of the composition work. Can you pick a favorite?
I got it. For me, it's the slain prompt, being slain, what that is, what that means. Yeah, that was and the warrior component of that as well. I don't know if Ellie or Vanessa would like to expand more on what that prompt was, if anyone would be interested in knowing more, but that was so powerful for me.
The slain or surrender was a time in your life where you were taken to your knees in defeat. And then the warrior piece was, a time where you became your own superhuman version of yourself, basically. And I think it appeared that a lot of people who had the opportunity to do that writing, it found its way into every piece. Like Vanessa was like, let's do a haunting piece. And all of us were back to those pieces of being haunted by that thing that took us to our knees, or overcoming, and that's overcoming the haunting. And that's what made us the warrior. Or it's really interesting. The thematic chord, I guess we were kind of getting at a thematic chord there that kind of serves what we choose next and how we choose to move forward, being survivors, all of us, or
survivors and wounded healers, right? That's
yeah.
My favorite, I don't know. I take little bits and pieces from everything, but I think my favorite was the ballet and Giselle, her going mad like that. I mean, she was so happy, and then she went absolutely crazy. I mean, just it's like, I've been rejected, and it just drove her nuts, and then of course the kingdom of the Willies, and she has to come back and forgive whatever his name. I think it's Albert. It's his name. Okay, it's been a while since I've seen the ballet, but it just, to me, that and I guess there's a little bit of warrior in me. That just goes to the warrior,
There's a lot of warrior in you, yeah.
Absolutely.
that goes to the warrior in me,
Well,
because-
and I personally loved, watching you during the ballet bar work, and I know that that's something that brings you a lot of joy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So
It
that
really
was,
does.
I loved seeing that.
What was your favorite, Vanessa?
Oh gosh. I mean, I too kind of take away, something from each thing. I'll tell you, I mean, my absolute favorite, of course, to lead is the Bad Romance dance. But
so fun. It's so fun.
Is to be part of it is without a doubt the West African dance, because it's so community driven. I love that. And I've enjoyed the writing prompts, but I have struggled just because I've been in administrative headspace, and so have struggled with the writing prompts, but would like to go back on my own and visit. I wasn't there for the warrior slaying piece, and that's definitely something that I could have written really pretty well, I think. So I should go back to that on my own.
Yeah. I think my favorite is watching everyone. Yeah, so this takes me back to the Girl Project and what, Margaret, Vanessa, and I see with the Girl Project, which is there's a lot in the beginning, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are you all trying to get us to do? And this is a 6-month commitment we've made to these women, and the group has changed and evolved. And a lot of people are there early on, and then people fall away. Kind of, it takes a huge amount of trust to not know what's at the end and just trust that the process is the important thing. And I even, I've been doing this all my life and I struggle with that. So just the people who stayed the course with us. And then I think Vanessa gave the assignment of, you're going to do a solo piece, because instead of trying to create one big story with all these lives and all these experiences, you're going to create a solo piece. And it's really the moment where you're like, either we've all learned something collectively, or we've not done what we set out to do here. And so we didn't know what to expect with those solo pieces, because we hadn't asked for solo creation. It was a big ask. It's a big ask with people with full-time jobs and lives and children and spouses and, life. And that night, when everybody came in with a solo piece, some people had movement pieces, some people had poetry, some people just read words, some people were moving and doing poetry, and had created just a moment in their lives. And I was so moved. I was like, oh, we're devising. We're not just learning choreography, which there's nothing wrong with that. We've all enjoyed that a lot. But the fact that everybody invested enough to share a piece of themselves and the writing, I mean, it talk about slaying, like some of the writing has taken me to my knees, to be honest. And just to watch us get up and decide to dance for each other. Like, everybody turn off your videos. I'm going to read you something and then you're just going to watch me move. I'm like, this is as good as it gets. I mean, and I'm like, oh, we've all learned something together and chosen to give something here. Like, we're leaving little pieces of ourselves out there. And I'm not sure it gets better than that. Yeah. Part of me wants to not share it. I'm like, oh, this is ours. I feel like it's very out. And of course we'll share a little piece, but there's nothing, it's like creating anything. You get to share the result, but nobody gets to see how far you've come except for the people who are in the room.
Yeah.
So the devising, I think, has been pretty amazing. I like burlesque dancing too.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
It's also so fun, Ellie. So much fun.
It was fun. Ginger, man, she was something else.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we've had some amazing guests come in and work with us, and Ginger Fatal from California was amazing.
So speaking of devising, this will be our last question, but Lydia and Margaret, will you just tell us or give us a little hint of what your solo piece or your, if you want to talk about something you're devising, like your haunting piece, or can you give us a little hint of what you're working on or what you're trying to generate for yourselves?
A lot of it is about issues and things that were in my personal legacy from my family and stuff, and just basically how I'm dealing with it. My mom was an immigrant. Oh gosh, she came to the United States in 1924, and she was 2 years old, and she became naturalized, but she lived in an old world style house, a family situation where the women do what they're told, and the discrepancy there is that my grandmother left Nicaragua with 4 kids and no husband. Mom used to say that her father passed, but there's kind of doubts in Daddy and I talk about this. When we were trying to put together our family tree, and we just don't know what happened to Mama's father. All that to say is she came in an unusual situation, came to New Orleans, and my mom grew up in that, but she was raised old style, like from the old country. And so I grew up in that. And all that to say is that the piece that I'm working on is just how I confront that as a warrior, if you will. Yeah. And because there are moments when it has taken me to my knees, and so it's just how I've grown up, and just decided to make my own legacy.
Thank you for sharing that, Lydia.
Yeah.
I want to just say, as a preview for Lydia's work, from my perspective as an audience member, she's just getting into this whole idea of ancestry and procestry. How do you think about your future from and with your past? And you introduced that idea of procestry as a neologism, of what you're creating out of this and what we're creating out of this. And I was just really inspired by that in your work. So I'm gonna give that's like a spoiler or something. Okay, so for me, I'm really interested in the deep lizard brain patterns of Christian hymnals for me and liturgy, and I'm exploring in my piece how I'm revitalizing my Christian inheritance and in a real like sense of my own kind of conversion to the spiritual essence of what I consider to be the historical Jesus, right? And how I can revive my own sense of the songs that I've sung without thinking about them, right? How I can get these patterns back in ways that are meaningful. And I think that's so much of what you're doing with inheritance and in general is like these things that were forced on you, maybe. How can you like come to a place of acceptance and empowerment through them, and because they're also yours, and it's been really wonderful to, I've been doing this whole like last time we talked about it, I was really inspired by some feedback that led me to like a refrain verse refrain structure like you'd see in any hymnal, right? And just the ways that we can use art to heal through time, because it's all the same forms, it's all the same principles. And I was, so that's a preview, is that this kind of revival of different language that might sound very familiar to people used to Christian liturgy.
And these are all like 3-minute pieces. if you can believe it, you're listening. And this is all wrapped up in 3 minutes of these. It's amazing. That's how smart everyone is. Vanessa, what's your piece about?
Oh, well, mine is actually not a solo. It is a duo because of my daughter being in the project, I didn't feel that I could really tell my cycle of life or legacy without being intertwined with her. And it was really important to me. So we have created a duo dance piece that intertwines our lives, but not only our lives, also just the line, the parent turning into the child, turning into the parent. And I think that we are looking at the cycle and including my mom as well, even though she's not physically in the piece. We are definitely looking at all of that being passed down and how those relationships continue to evolve as you age and what that looks like. It's really pretty freaking special to my heart.
Major.
Really exciting.
And Ellie, yours has been evolving.
Has been evolving. Mine really, because we were looking at these ideas of phases of the life cycle of a woman. I just was at a really, I think, hard place in January when we put this assignment out there. And I just felt like I have all these phases, but I'm so drowning in this pandemic and my light being taken away. And I don't get to share it a lot. And I guess a thing that's been revealed to me is that I think I have a pretty steady outward facing self that people expect and come to expect. And I always have a smile. I have so much gratitude for all that I do have that I oftentimes don't feel the right to feel sad or dark or, and what art does is let me say it out loud sometimes, and just to admit that I feel like my light has been taken from me and is a scary thing to say. And just to be, so really I wrote a contagion piece, which is the shortest of my lifespan. It's been 2 years, right? But it was a huge part of, it's a huge part of my story right now. And I was like, I'm not going to write about another time. Let me just try to face and embrace where I am right now. So it surprised me and it seemed so dark, and I don't necessarily feel that all the time, but it was nice to be able to share it in a space and have it received as not, oh, you might need therapy, or more as like, oh, creative, interesting. Thank you for saying those things out loud. And yes, anding my current experience rather than anybody expressing concern or let's fix it, or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's something so special about just getting to share and everyone saying thank you. And then that's it. So it would, yeah, I don't know if I'll stay with that, but maybe I will. Well, I just want to say we're beyond grateful that you all have stayed the course with us and created. And I think what's really special is the 20-year-olds seeing the 30 and 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds. We're all still working through the same stuff. And us later in the age, looking at the young people who really are wanting to engage and ask these questions, and they're already seeing what is to come and wanting to work through these things. It's just really special to all be working through it together. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For those of you new to the podcast, we are Voices Amplified, and you are listening to Voices Amped. You can check out our work or support us by visiting voicesamplified.net. Our work generates brave and equitable spaces for storytelling by underrepresented voices in dominant culture. We support and partner with organizers, thought leaders, and arts activists across the United States. Our team is me, Ellie Clark, and co-founder Vanessa Becker Weig, as well as the incredible Dr. Margaret McGladrey and Jenny Benavides. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Voices Amped. We love feedback, so shoot us an email at ellie@voicesamplified.net. That's ELLIE@voicesamplified.net. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest, reach out. As always, thanks for your support, and remember, be curious, be courageous, take up space, and make some noise.